probably the first standalone fast casual poke concept in the country. It was like catching lightning in a bottle.
It was like lines out the door.
Yeah, like we would have to close in the middle of the day. We were 1,000 square feet. We were doing more sales like per square foot than an Apple store.
Let's go.
It was pretty insane.
Do you
And
know how many restaurants fail?
I try not to look. I try not to.
I
think it's like 90%.
The barriers to entry into the restaurant business are quite low. Like people think, oh yeah, I'm a pretty good home cook. Like I should have a restaurant. Like, no, you shouldn't.
No, you should not.
Welcome to XTRAordinary, the most extraordinary podcast in the world. Today we have my good friend Seth Cohen joining us.
What's up, guys?
Good to have you.
Seth is the founder of Sweetfin.
Wow. Okay,
which
cool.
Which is my favorite poke restaurant, not only in LA, but really anywhere.
It better be. Former investor.
Former investor.
Yes, there you
That's
go.
fair.
What
That's
number investor was I?
First 10, because we raised all in one round. So first round.
First round, yeah.
First round for first round.
I was with it. I was one of the first 10 investors.
Yes.
Was I the first? Who was the first?
I don't remember who.
You were the first.
I think I wrote the first check.
There
to
you
be
go.
honest,
You wrote the first
but
check.
You were not far behind me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That makes me feel happy.
What year was this?
This was 2015.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 9 years ago.
So I lived on the west side in Marina Del Rey.
Yeah.
And there's this little hole in the wall poke spot on Venice Beach that is literally a hole in the wall.
Okay, that's fair.
And they gave these big kind of like tubs like that you would buy at a grocery store, just filled with poke. And one of my favorite spots, and Seth and one of our other friends, his co-founder Brett, came to me and said, hey, we're starting like a much more upscale poke concept.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I go to this poke hole in the wall a couple of times a week.
We can figure out a way to do this a little bit better, a little bit nicer.
Okay.
There was more to the idea, but yes,
Yeah.
that's basically how it started.
Yeah, but that was before.
So
before
you're like an upscale version of a Chipotle poke. It's like fast but better quality.
Fast,
And
better quality, better design, better experience.
Overall better
brand.
everything.
Yeah. I
Better
think so.
food.
Better food.
Okay, cool.
Better ingredients.
Better health.
Yeah.
And now, how many do you have?
20.
Solid. Let's
Yeah.
go. Are you looking to expand more? What's your vision for
Yeah,
it?
we think the brand has a lot of legs, and we think that in the category we have the strongest brand, the best product, and we think there should be a Sweetfin in almost every city in the country. So that's what we're gonna do.
I mean, if you don't like poke, I probably don't like you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good.
It's the
Yeah.
That could be our new tagline.
Yeah, there you go.
Throw it on the back.
Go ahead and
Dude,
take
we're
that.
always
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
up with new
Let's
ideas
go.
on
For
Extraordinary.
sure. Let's
If
go.
you don't like poke, I don't like you.
That's
We'll
it.
put it on a shirt.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
how it does. That's great.
So, the journey from 1 to 20. Tell me about that.
I think like any entrepreneurial journey, a ton of ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster ride. The first one we opened, just to get to the door number one was a ton of work, and it was a lot of convincing people. So we literally, besides that hole in the wall that Teague just mentioned in Venice Beach, we were probably the first standalone fast casual poke concept in the country.
What year?
That was 2015.
2015, yeah.
So no one knew what the hell we were talking about. And that's where we thought the opportunity was, because we saw the fast casual market. There was Chipotle that was really becoming popular, and Sweet Green and Shake Shack, and everyone was kind of doing the same thing. There was a lot of like sandwiches and salads, and a lot of Mexican food. And we thought there's probably a good opportunity in the healthy fast casual space to try to scale something like sushi. And so we discovered poke. I traveled to Hawaii a lot as a kid. And then we stumbled upon this, literally the hole in the wall in Venice, and we're like, this is good, but it can be done so much better.
Yeah.
And so number one, like convincing investors. T was always open-minded, but a lot of others weren't. They're like, how are you going to scale this sushi concept? It's sushi in a bowl. Like, what does that even mean? Like, how are you going to get fresh fish? Like, how's this scalable? And then the biggest hurdle was convincing real estate owners. So we signed an LOI in downtown LA, and we were like totally excited. Like, this is going to be location number one. It's going to be really busy Monday through Friday, foot traffic for lunch. And so we're like starting to negotiate the lease. And I remember getting a call from the broker, and the broker's like, yeah, we ended up changing our mind. The ownership doesn't really want to do poke in this space. That's what he called it.
Called it poke.
Yeah. And, we're going to go with a grilled cheese concept instead. And I was like super upset because like, we got excited about this location.
Yeah.
It didn't materialize, but, as is often in life, it was the best thing that could have happened for us because we ended up finding another location in Santa Monica, which from a brand standpoint made a lot of sense since we were coastal, cuisine opening up on the coast. So, just getting that first store open, convincing investors, convincing real estate owners, like first time operators, we could execute was a big challenge. And then when we opened the doors for store number 1, like it was like catching lightning in a bottle. Like it was just like,
it was like lines out the door.
Yeah. Like we would have to close in the middle of the day. We were 1,000 square feet. We were doing more sales like per square foot than an Apple store.
Let's go.
It was pretty insane. And so like, we weren't prepared for that. We were hoping, but like we weren't prepared. So like we had someone prepping 24 hours a day, like working night shifts within our stores. And like, we were like, it was so janky the way we were doing things. Like, we were frying like crispy onions and taro chips like on a tabletop fryer, like stuff stuff for like, we could have done if it was low volume, but not at the volumes that we were doing.
Right.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people a day. So the first one went really well. And, we've slowly but surely been growing the brand, in a smart way. Partnerships, collaborations, getting really good real estate. We raised, I guess you could call it like a Series A with some strategic investors, a former CEO of Shake Shack.
This was after the first one?
Yeah, after the first
What
number
location?
That was after number 1.
Okay.
Right after number 1, you did that.
Yeah, so we got like...
How much did you need to raise in order to get number 1 up and going with your first round of investors?
We raised $465K.
Okay.
Which was like the perfect amount of money. Like we were truly profitable from day one, which was super rare, but you have to, in this business, you have to assume you're not going to be. And then we raised like $2 million for the next 4 stores. I think like that was like mistake number 1.
Yeah.
Why?
Like because we opened this first location, which was 1,000 square feet in Santa Monica, and it probably cost us like $350 to build, plus all of the like the website and all of the things to get the concept up and running. Then we went into an 1,850 square foot spot in the valley out in Woodland Hills, which was supposed like it was sold to us. It's going to be like the Grove of the valley.
Spot. Yeah.
And so that space was basically double the size, and it ended up costing like $1 million to open that store
because of the build out was
the build out. Yeah, the build out was bigger. Like I think there may have been some union contracting that we had to do. Like we had to use since it was a shopping center, we had to use their labor for some of the build out. And like we ended up like stretching that $2 million to open like 7 stores.
Oh, wow.
And it was good, but like it was super like
it was like the second one was a big learning lesson.
Yeah. And just, we just made assumptions that, I wouldn't say we're arrogant, but we just didn't know better. We're like, okay, if we're doing, $4 million out of 1,000 square feet, like we'll just do 7 million and double. Like, and that's not.
It's also better, I think, to have a smaller place that's always packed because you have that like, this place is crowded. I always have to be at this place, and the vibe. And it's better. Yeah. It's better to not fulfill everyone's need and to have people wanting more than a too big of a spot that's empty.
For sure.
So did you learn the second time, and for the third one you scaled it down a little bit again and found a smaller spot?
I think we've like had these like pendulum swings of taking spaces at the beginning that were maybe too big, and then like maybe overreacting and taking spaces that were too small, and just like also thinking a space was going to be good because the rent, like the occupancy cost was good. So like another learning is you get what you pay for sometimes. Like if a space is cheap, there's typically a reason why. But yeah, I mean, like I think even with 20 stores, it's still like we're still not exactly sure. Like we think we know what our perfect box is, but it's really hard to determine what our sweet spot is. Like I'm pretty sure it's between like 900 and 1,200 square feet, open line concept. Like we had the design down pretty good, even though like we purposefully design each store to look different. Like you walk in, it still feels like a Sweetfin, but we don't want it to be like cookie cutter. It needs to fit into the neighborhood a little bit. And,
okay.
That's interesting because in and out, every single brick and mortar is the exact same, I think. Like the layout, the tables, like...
Yeah, so I walk in, I feel like I know the place.
Yeah. Like I know exactly where. Like,
where's the bathroom? Oh, right over there.
Yeah.
So there's a conscious decision to make them all different.
Well, like we've been, one of the selling points when we were talking to investors, and probably something we pitched to you, and something we still talk about with investors is like we have a very flexible footprint. The majority of our orders are coming in digitally, so we don't need a ton of like square footage within the restaurants. We don't need a full kitchen. We don't need a hood.
That's
so
great.
We can, in theory, we can convert retail into our use. And so we don't need to compete with a Kava or a Sweetgreen that's going to outbid us for those 2,000 square foot locations. And now, everyone is kind of downsizing, which is interesting. And we are used to that. Like everyone, like digital ordering, obviously, it started before COVID, but COVID was the real, tailwind behind that trend, and that's only continuing to pick up. And so, you now even see like Starbucks locations and Sweetgreen locations that they just have kiosks, and you don't interact with the person. The kitchen is in the back, and then there's like a to-go shelf, and that's what's happening.
You said that the majority of your orders are digital. Is that through Uber Eats, or do you have your own app that you can order from?
Yeah, so I'd say it's a healthy combination between the two. Like we signed a really, really robust marketing deal with Uber. We were actually the first ever exclusive restaurant on a platform.
Weren't you exclusive with Postmates?
Yeah, so like 6 years ago, the CEO of Postmates, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm introducing myself. My name's Bastian. We want to have you exclusively on our app." And I was like, "That's crazy. Why would we do that? We're doing sales on DoorDash and Uber. Uber and Postmates weren't together at the time, and Grubhub." And he's like, "Well, we think that we can make up the sales for you if you are just exclusive on our app, and we're really going to market you. Like, we're going to put you front and center on the app. We'll run campaigns with you." And I understood it. And he said it in a really interesting way at the time, which is like, he compared it to the streaming services. Like you have Netflix and you have Hulu and you have Amazon, like you have all the different streaming services. And what is it? They all do the same thing. They all stream content. But the difference between is the content on each one. And he's like, our advantage, like what we want to do is we want to put the best merchants and restaurants on our app. So when someone thinks to order food, they're not going to go on DoorDash. They're not going to go on Uber.
Right.
They're automatically going to want to go on Postmates. I was like, okay, I understand the vision, but like we need to figure out a way to make up the revenue difference. So would you consider giving us a guarantee for the revenue? We'll be transparent. This is the sales we're doing. Let's put a healthy growth number on it. And, if you guys don't hit the sales, you owe us the money. He's like, okay, we can do that.
Fire. That's
so
good.
That was like the first, we were the first exclusive merchant on one of those third-party platforms. And then
did it end up how you envisioned? Like, was that a good exclusive partnership? Or?
With Postmates, yes.
How long was the term?
Yeah.
The term was 1 year with the option to extend, and we extended, and then we extended.
Hey.
Okay, so it was good.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, and then we went into COVID, and it was a crazy time because like zero interest rate policy, right? ZIRP. Uber was trying to grow like crazy. DoorDash was trying to grow like crazy, and there was kind of like this battle between the two. And DoorDash was really kind of making headway in most of the major cities in the U.S. And Uber got really scared. Uber ended up acquiring Postmates because Postmates had access to all the hero brands. And like I got actually access.
How big was that acquisition?
It was $1 billion acquisition.
Okay.
And which like I could say that we were a part of, like I guess
for
Postmates
sure.
can thank us a little bit.
For sure.
Because like I actually got the pitch book for the presentation that went to the board of Uber to, vote on whether or not they want to do this acquisition. And there was, a list of reasons like synergies, blah, blah, blah. And one of the main reasons was acquisition of hero brands on Postmates. Sweetfin,
Let's
Tokaya,
go.
Sugarfish. There was like 5 of us.
Can I see that booklet?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Nice, thanks.
And so we ended up getting in a bidding war between Uber and DoorDash. And negotiate a really ridiculous deal. That was like, it was ridiculous.
With Uber.
With Uber, we ended up going with Uber. And when the market changed and 2020, like going into 2022, when the Fed started raising rates, and there was like, I remember Dara going on TV on CNBC, and he's like, we're going to cut the fat, like we're going to trim the fat. We're going to focus on profitability. We were one of the things, even though we were under contract, we got into a little bit of a dispute there, which ended up not being a great situation. But like we've kind of rebuilt I can't talk about it too much, but we've rebuilt the relationship.
Disputes are never great situations.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
No matter how good you think it's going to end up, like it always is worse.
They're expensive and
they're draining.
They're draining, and you don't want to go up against a company like that. Yeah. They have endless resources just to crush you.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to your how we got here was digital ordering, right? So we have a ton through Uber, some on DoorDash, and then
what sort of cut do the apps take from the restaurant? Because I've heard it's better to just order it straight from the restaurant.
Well,
the apps are taking a fat piece.
Yeah, it's
is it like 30%?
I'm very opinionated about this. So
please do share.
I will.
Because I prefer to support the restaurant.
So for sure, like if you can order direct from a restaurant, order direct from a restaurant. Before COVID, like going right into COVID, we were like, thank God, like foreseeing this trend in digital. So we decided to invest in online ordering, our own like native online ordering, and then partnered with an amazing, white label delivery, but also loyalty platform. So like everything was completely integrated. So like right when COVID like hit us, we had just launched our own native online ordering app and then loyalty program. Fire. So we went from like 5,000, people in our database to I think we have like 145,000 now over the last 2.5 years or 3 years.
Let me get that email list.
Yeah, the email list is treasure.
That's great.
But yeah, third party, it's tough. It's they sell it as incremental revenue. I think it's bullshit.
Is it 30%?
It depends. Like
okay,
it's all about leveraging like your brand. Like okay, we have 20 locations.
Okay, so it's not a set percentage for every restaurant.
No, and there's legislation that they're trying to pass that where it is like a set amount. So it's like, McDonald's Corporation can obviously,
afford to.
Well, they'll just say, hey, we're going to go exclusive on another app, or we're just not going to imagine the value of having McDonald's on your app.
Right.
So like they'll negotiate.
Right.
So instead of 30%, maybe it's 15%. But the biggest change that has happened over the last year, and Uber talks about this a lot, like if you, even on their last earnings call, like this is a big piece for them. They built $1 billion marketing and ads engine for Uber Eats in the last year. Like,
Epic.
So it's all like PPC, SEO, like digital real estate on the app. Because if someone goes on the app, you're going to most likely order one of the first 10 things that you see, right?
Especially if you're hungry. You only order it when you're hungry. You check it out. Like,
very few people, like people go on the app to be inspired. Like they don't know what they want. It's like walking into a digital food court and you're like, oh, this looks good. This looks good. If you can't be found, then people aren't ordering your product. Right. So like they got smart and realized that. So now there's like a whole, ad auction system within the app. So if you want to be seen first or in the top 5, you can bid on keywords, you can bid on placement, and then they're really promoting that everyone does discounts on the app. So it's like you'll go on Uber and you'll be like, oh, buy one, get one. Well, like who pays for that?
Exactly. It's
the restaurants pay for that. So like you do all of these things if you really follow what they say you should do, which is ads, keyword search terms, discounts, plus the commission.
So is it almost a loss leader?
It can be if you're not smart about it.
Rough.
It can be.
I was going to say, because margins on food isn't necessarily great, especially when you put everything into context with the whole restaurant and everything. So
because it's not incremental. Like there's only so much money people can spend on food. There's only so much space in someone's stomach. Like it's not, like it is not for sure. It is not incremental. I don't believe that. Like they basically, now to be honest about it. Like they basically used venture capital money over the last decade to acquire customers. They used brands like us who were like in some ways maybe stupid enough
to grow them.
Right? Because they are really just acquiring our customer.
They're a middleman.
And right? Yeah. And so like they're acquiring our customer and building habits amongst the consumer base. So like you may know like subconsciously, yeah, it's better to order Sweetfin or
do you think I have two questions.
Yep.
One, you said they're acquiring your customer. Do you think that it's balanced where like you're also gaining new customers, like you're acquiring some of their customers that are finding out about you on their app?
Yeah, so it wasn't a one-sided deal. Like they spent a lot of money marketing us.
Right.
And if they send an email to their LA cohort, their database, and it hits 2 million people and it's promoting a new item that Sweetfin has, like that's amazing, that's right? Amazing, yeah. So like there's two sides to it. That's a good point.
You ever throw any messages in the food when it gets delivered, like a little piece of paper and there's order straight from the app next time.
Yeah.
Come to Sweetfin.com.
Every bag that comes that goes out has a little postcard that's stapled to it that has a QR code that says order direct from Sweetfin. You'll get $5 off your first order.
Nice.
Yeah.
My second question was, you said that you listened to Uber's earnings call. You listened to earnings calls from Uber?
I mean, I listen to earnings calls that I'm interested in.
Nice.
That was one of them. One that I listened to. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's good to know what like people, what these companies are emphasizing, and you really get, especially if you work with them, you get it's a way to peel back the onion in some ways and understand like where are they going with the business? Like what do analysts want to see? What does the investor community want to see? And then you can kind of understand like, okay, Dara's been talking about, for example, cutting costs. Like we should have seen this coming. Like look at the stock price. It's gone from like 18 to 60, 70, right? Like those are things like I should have known, like, or I did know that that's going to be an emphasis on profitability. And so like, how is the investment community going to, view that? But yeah, I mean, when he's talking about the ads platform, like there's a lot of stuff they say, which I think is just like complete bullshit. They're like, oh, the average ROAS, return on ad spend, is 11x on our app, meaning like
is that real?
No, of course not.
Okay. Well,
yeah, they just say that. So like basically what I think they do is like they take every single dollar that's spent on your brand and they include that in the ROAS calculation. So like there's people that go on the app that search Sweetfin or just see Sweetfin and we're gonna order us regardless. Right. But like if we're spending money on an ad, they're gonna say like, oh, that part of the ROAS calculation. Yeah, it's total BS.
I mean, an 11x ROAS, return on ad spend, would be like,
I would put unlimited money.
Unlimited. Yeah. For every dollar you put in, you get $11 back.
Yeah. I wish it was that simple, but it's not that simple.
What's your vision for Sweetfin? How many facilities would you like to open? Within the next few years, do you see it growing? Do you want to expand to different spots or states?
I mean, I think again, there's a real trend. It's not even a trend. It's like the people want to eat better, fresh product, cleaner ingredients, but still maintain flavor forward, chef driven, exciting. That's why you see Kava and Sweetgreen doing so well, because like those two brands really fit into like the cultural zeitgeist of what's going on, the way people want to eat, and I think we fit just with them. Like I think our category is a little bit more niche and it's more challenging because not everyone loves raw fish, but we're trying to solve for that. It's again one of our biggest challenges of having spaces that don't necessarily have hoods and are smaller. We're limited with what we can do from a culinary standpoint. Like we can't just add, grilled steak if we wanted to add grilled steak, right? Because we don't have a grill, we don't have the space. So like, how can we be creative? And so we've done a lot of like menu innovation over the last 5 years or so, but and we're doubling down on menu innovation right now. What can we do that's unique and different? That's Sweetfin within the Sweetfin brand in order to expand and kind of create a menu that doesn't have a lot of the veto votes that our menu can have. Because like if you don't like
veto vote,
like imagine you were going to lunch with a bunch of coworkers or your family, and one of your kids or the coworkers are like, I don't like poke. I don't eat seafood. Okay, well we're not going there, right? And so that's something you need to solve for.
If you don't like poke, we don't like you. Get out of here, little kid.
Yes, yeah.
So you're 9 years in,
yep,
and you have 20 locations. I mean, that's like 2 locations a year or a little bit more. How many locations do you envision Sweetfin growing to? These are all wholly owned. I think you mentioned to me the other night you want to explore a franchise model. Talk to me about kind of the first 9 years and then where you want to take it maybe the next 9, like where you see the brand going.
So right now it's challenging. Like it's expensive to grow. Like it is expensive to open stores. Like the cost to build has gotten expensive. And now that we're getting close to have saturated Los Angeles.
These are all in Los Angeles, or I think you have one in
mostly
San Diego.
We have one in San Diego, 2 in Orange County, but primarily in LA.
I can definitely see it in Miami.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like we have conversations with people that are like, yeah, we could see it in Boston, and we could see it in New York City. It'd be a great place for lunch or casual dinner. Miami, Scottsdale, Austin, Dallas. There's opportunities. Like there's so much white space for us.
That's when franchising will probably come in.
Yeah, and so the benefit of not franchising is you control everything. You control all of the employees. You control the management. You control the brand. You control the quality of product. But once you get into franchising, you need to be really tight on your operations. And so, but what franchising allows you to do is become a lot more capital efficient as you grow. Like you don't need to spend as much money. You're basically using other people's money to grow, and in return they're using the brand that you've built to hopefully garner returns for themselves.
Right.
So I think long term there is a real opportunity to grow through franchising. It's something that for the first time we're really seriously looking at right now. And I think since we've been so protective over the brand over the last 9 years, there's other concepts within our category that have really pushed franchising. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement to have people get their hands on our brand for the first time, because the truth of the matter is, like, we may not be the best operators or the best at any particular segment of the business, but if you talk to people within the category and people in the food community, and you ask them about poke, typically Sweetfin is like the brand that's like that comes up. So I think it's going to be a good move for us if we decide to do it.
Yeah,
I agree. I want some Sweetfin for lunch.
I'll send it to you guys.
Order it right now.
We should get it for sure.
Direct.
Yeah,
direct.
Straight to the website.
Yeah, through the website.
Or you could just send a text message. How about that?
I could.
So one of my favorite movies is the movie The Founder, which is on the story of the McDonald's.
Great movie.
Right?
Yeah, great movie.
And I always think about the way that he basically owned the real estate underneath the land and the McDonald's that he was building. And that was kind of like the catalyst to really growing the brand from that standpoint. As you go down this franchise path, would you consider making franchisors or franchisees rent from land that you potentially own or something like that? So that it's just another way to control.
In a perfect world, that would be amazing. Like people have always asked us, like, why haven't you bought the spaces that you're in?
Yeah.
And like it's hard in LA. Like our first
For
location,
sure.
We're like,
it's also a bigger risk too.
Yeah. For sure. Like we're at the bottom of like it's a mixed use building with probably like 300 units on top of us. Like,
right.
I don't know what that's like, $150 million building,
Yeah,
like $500K a door. Like, it's not happening. In a perfect world, you want to be, you want to have an opco and you want to have a propco, and there's a lot of ways to create value from doing that for the company that owns the properties.
Have you had to shut down any locations?
We shut down. So part of the model or part of our partnership with Uber, there was like a lot of money that was kind of pushing us to grow and allowed us to take risks. And, you know, one of the trends, I would say, or the fads of during COVID were ghost kitchens or dark kitchens. And so we opened 2 dark kitchens, one in Lawndale, and we had 3 at one point. So one in Long Beach, one in Lawndale, and one in Pasadena. Long Beach, we were doing well. We saw promise, so we decided to close it and turn it into a brick and mortar. But Lawndale and Pasadena, we just closed those. It's really hard to operate a ghost kitchen because you don't have any physical street presence. People don't know you're there, and then you're truly relying on the apps.
Digital.
So there's like really 2 ways that it works. Number one, you're a Starbucks or you're a Chick-fil-A or you're Raising Cane's, and you have so much brand equity that like it doesn't matter. Like you could open up on freaking the moon and people are going to order you.
Yeah.
The other way to do it is to operate multiple brands within a kitchen. And so like there's some companies, like a friend of mine owns a company called Salted, and they are really good at cross-utilizing ingredients, and they have, you know, typically 6 to 8 brands within one kitchen that they're operating it. And then there was like a really big push back against ghost concepts. Like the app started to actually like mark them on the app. That's like
this
is
a ghost.
Yeah.
And then
Order from your ghost.
Ghost.
I don't want that.
Exactly. Even though like we had the same exact ingredients, the same exact standards, the same
it's
employees.
It's a mindset perception thing.
Yeah. So, but listen, there's some people that are executing at a high level doing it. Like there's a concept called Goop Kitchen, based out of LA. They've obviously leveraged Goop, so Gwyneth Paltrow's, you know, health and wellness company, to really drive first orders. But like they brought in a crazy management team. You know, one of the former founders of Mendocino Farms is involved, and they have a lot of guys from Cheesecake Factory, and so like they're doing it right, and they're executing at a high level. So I would say they're an exception to the rule, but like these ghost kitchens are really hard to make money. I think like it's good. What they're good for is entrepreneurs that don't have $500,000 or $1 million to open a restaurant, but maybe they can like scrap together, you know, 30, 40, 50K.
Lower cost of entry.
And they can test things. And, you know, if they're getting traction, it's a way for them to show like, you know, potential investors like, hey, we've been testing this in the ghost kitchen. These are our ratings. People really like it. These are the reorder rates. Now back us for a more traditional brick and mortar concept, but it's a tough business.
Yeah. Is this your sole focus, like just Sweetfin?
It is right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as becoming like a multifaceted restaurant entrepreneur, like owning multiple brands, or just focused on growing Sweetfin to 100 locations, 500, or have multiple brands within the portfolio?
Yeah, I think big picture, there are other projects that I want to take on that are not just Sweetfin. Like maybe there's a world where we bring in management that's more experienced than us, that are really, for example, great at franchising, and you know, we keep our equity and we help with the brand and the marketing, but there's someone else that like can really do a better job of growing faster.
What's Sweetfin doing in revenue annually between all locations?
We're north in the 20 range.
Solid.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a lot of fish.
It's a lot of fish.
It's a lot of fish.
Yeah, that's actually a good question and point. Talk to me about supply chain, like having fresh fish at all these locations.
It's gotta be expensive.
It's a lot of yeah. What does supply chain look like for you?
So, it's not, you know, supply chains are really robust, just across the country. Like there's so much product being moved. Like if you go to a sushi place, you know, in Arizona or Denver, you know, there's like fresh product just being flown all over the country. So the supply chain is a little bit more simple than you would think. We really work with 3 major suppliers. We have a kind of like we have our seafood supplier, we have our produce supplier, and then we have kind of like the basic goods, you know, the basics that you can get from pretty much anyone. It's at the beginning, it was more challenging, you know, really like figuring out what products we could buy consistently, and then we built the menu around that. But like during COVID, it was crazy. For example, we sell fresh albacore from Fiji, and so during COVID, there was a limited amount of flights coming in from Fiji to LA because there was less product that was going from Fiji to LA because there was less demand. So like our fish wouldn't get on the flight. So like there was times where we just didn't have that on the menu, or like we order a special bamboo rice from China that's like a jade rice, like that just wasn't coming in. So we had to find, like, I think like people, we're not in and out, so like we have a lot of optionality on our menu. I think we calculated like years ago there's 94 million different ways you can build a sweetfin bowl. So like if we're out of a product that's like, I think like our customer understands, we can substitute it. But,
I think that's a sign of like a place being pretty high quality too. It's like, listen, we didn't catch this today, so it's not here.
We're not going to serve it. We're not going to serve it.
That's like, Hawaii. Our guy just went on a boat and brought this back. So
isn't your related. Logo or slogan like from pole to bowl?
That was something
that's
we
an
came
old
up
one?
with. It's an old one. It was kind of like the idea was like
from
farm to
pole.
Farm to
pole
it was like farm to table.
Pole
to bowl.
Pretty good.
I think I was like walking around. I thought of that one day. I was like, it's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Pretty good.
So speaking about supply, would you ever, and I heard this is pretty controversial. I mean, I heard something where California, they don't have to let you know if chicken or meat or something is 3D printed or not. Would you ever 3D print your fish?
I mean, I think we're so far away from that.
All right.
But like,
that's a no. I'll take that.
Well, I'll get like, so, not to be controversial, but like, for example, there's a lot there. So another like slightly pre-COVID and COVID like thing that was in vogue, right, was like all the meat substitutes. So like Beyond and Impossible Burger, like those companies went parabolic, and we know where they are now.
Where are they now?
Not in good spots. I mean, listen, they're still like around, but like they've lost like literally 95% of their market cap.
Really?
Yeah, but it was all like, again, it was all ZERP, like hype, meme stock, crap.
Right.
But like with that, there were a lot. So like everyone, like there were a lot of food entrepreneurs that were like, okay, well, like if there's gonna be fake meat or meat substitutes, we should do some for fish.
Right.
And so like, and some were like better than others, but our whole like culinary, one of like the pieces of our culinary mantra is like, let's use like whole, fresh, real ingredients.
Fire.
And so like we would have this like modified tomato thing that would like sort of taste like tuna, and I'm like, why don't we just use sweet potato or like eggplant or shimeji mushrooms and
just make something
just
delicious
like
and different.
with vegetables.
Yeah.
Like and so like we never put that fake shit on our menu.
Cool.
And like maybe one day, like in 20 years, it will be the norm. Especially just with climate change and the need to produce more food, but it's not something that we would put on the menu right now for sure. No.
So one of my other friends is a successful restaurant entrepreneur, Tosh Berman, who started Toca Madera and Tokaya. Have you ever thought about, those are kind of similar brands. Tokaya is more of a fast casual. Toca Madera is like a more luxury, high end. Have you ever thought about taking the brand equity in Sweetfin and maybe making like a higher grade sushi, like a Sweetfin sushi that's like nigiri, I live in Austin, and Uchi was started there. And I think they just opened an Uchi.
Yeah, down the street.
I can't get out of Uchi without spending $200, $250 a head. Like,
yeah, it's so nice.
Have you thought about what a high-end Sweetfin?
Sweeter fin.
I like that.
Sweeter fin.
You're on top of that.
Let's go. Done.
I don't know. We're hiring for a CMO position.
Come on, I got you. I'm pretty busy with the podcast, but we'll see what we can do.
We pay in gift cards.
That's fair.
That's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about that. I do know that Tokaya, like Genesis, the kind of businesses pretty well. But no, I mean, I think it's an interesting idea.
Maybe you could start like a very small square footage omakase style.
Yeah, for sure.
Super high end and like, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
something like that.
Yeah. Definitely, it's definitely a possibility, and it could be good for building the brand.
That's too.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys are not 3D printing your fish right now, so that's gonna be lunch for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to order
non-3D printed fish.
It's exciting.
That also can be a part of our marketing.
So what early on, like, take me back to the first days before. Is this your first successful venture, Sweetfin?
Yeah, I guess so.
So take me back to those early days. What gave you the drive to start this? What have you always been an entrepreneur? Have you always had that mindset? What was the catalyst for you to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to spend all my waking hours going for it?
Yeah, I always had like a hodgepodge of different like passions, I would say. One of which was food and hospitality for whatever reason. Like I grew up just, before, I don't know, I feel like now food is very much like a part of culture, and you are what you eat, and like food brands are like, people are attached to certain food brands, and it just like, that's just normal. But like, I don't know, what, 25 years ago, maybe it wasn't. Like this was like when the Food Network was coming up, and like cooking, like men cooking, like not that there was ever anything wrong with it, but it just like wasn't as popular. Like now, like everyone loves to cook, and it's just like, it's just part of like our culture, what we do. But like for whatever reason, I was just really interested in that world. I love to watch Food Network. I love to cook myself. I love to go out to restaurants. People would always hit me up like, hey, where should I go for this occasion? Or which I just like had this encyclopedic knowledge of kind of restaurants. But I also loved business and marketing and branding, and grew up in a family that's in the real estate industry on the lending side, and understood real estate finance. So like I kind of had these, like, I think of it as like a Venn diagram of sorts, where it was like hospitality and food, marketing and branding and entrepreneurship, and then like real estate. And what I realized was like the intersection of was what I was eventually going to do, which was, fast casual concept that hopefully would scale. And so that made a lot of sense to me when I decided to start Sweetfin, because it was like, you want to enjoy what you're doing on a daily basis, and I could get really excited about that. And it truly was the intersection of all my passions. So co-founder Brett and I, who Teague and I went to USC with, we had a lot of different concept ideas. Like we would sit and we would cook and hang out, and we'd throw ideas around, and finally this idea for Poke, came to us, and it was just kind of like a no-brainer, because we're both very health conscious. We both really love sushi. We both saw, the value in being able to create a chef-driven concept that was differentiated. We didn't want to go head-to-head with like another burger concept or a customize your pizza concept. Those were really popular at the time, but we thought the consumer would really like it. Like it was healthy, it was customizable, it was fresh, it was great for delivery, takeout. Asian flavors were really becoming more and more popular when we looked at trends, so it just made sense. And so we did some tastings with friends, and asked people like, would you eat this? And people really liked the product. And so when we opened that first store in day one, like, yes, we had a lot of friends that were supportive, in our families, and I have a nice network in the community of LA because I grew up here, but like the neighborhood absolutely loved it. Like,
it's a good sign.
People would wait like hours to eat our food, and it felt good. It was exciting. And that's what I love about, one of the reasons why I love the hospitality industry is because like, it's kind of like instant gratification for like the entrepreneur. Like you can make a dish or give an experience, and you can see someone and like, it makes them happy. And you're like, yes, that's amazing. So it was a good feeling when we opened the first one.
It's really extraordinary to build a restaurant brand up to 20 locations. Like, do you know how many restaurants fail? Like, do you know those kind
I try not to look. I try not to.
I think it's like 90%.
Yeah, it's like 90%
restaurants
within
are
the first
hard.
2 years. Yeah, they're really hard. I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of reasons why restaurants are hard. Like, I think Danny Myers said this at one point.
Danny Myers is the CEO of Shake Shack.
He was the founder of Shake Shack, and he's a founder of Union Square Hospitality. And now he has a fund called Enlighten Hospitality, which is like a venture fund for food and beverage, and then kind of technology associated with the food and beverage industry. But he's like, we're basically a manufacturing company, right? A restaurant is manufacturing food. But unlike manufacturing companies that can take real estate in the middle of nowhere, like Vernon, we need to have main, like the best locations possible. So you're paying rents that are crazy. In California, labor is expensive.
That's wild.
Yeah, and then you had a lot of, fortunately these are coming down from a cost of goods standpoint, but like a ton of inflationary pressure. And so like you look at your P&L and it's like one pie, and you really have 3 costs that you need to control: rent, labor, and COGS. And if you screw up on 2 of those, like, you're toast.
Even one, even if you screw up
maybe
on one.
yeah, bad enough.
So
like,
give us
and sorry, one last comment. Like, the barriers to entry into the restaurant business are quite low. Like, people think, oh yeah, I'm a pretty good home cook, like I should have a restaurant. Like, no, you shouldn't.
No, you should not.
Like, you need to understand. Like,
maybe a cloud kitchen, but
yeah,
come on.
like if you understand business and you have like a plan and you understand budgeting and forecasting and P&Ls and controlling costs, like, there is probably like a much higher likelihood that you're going to be successful. But like, people are jumping into this thing and they're just like super unsophisticated. So like, yeah, no shit.
It's slightly a shame though too that's the reality, because I feel like we're missing out on some great food that some grandma can really cook, but just has no business skills.
Well, that's
it's
why.
Just like,
but
there's
like,
so much that goes into making it successful.
That's why there's when you go into like different neighborhoods in different cities, typically where rent's cheaper, there's better food. Like, why is that? It's because like you have entrepreneurs that are able to take a risk because like they don't have to pay the crazy rent, so they can like take a risk with the type of cuisine, or they're not private equity backed, so it's not all standardized.
Give us some secrets, dude. Where's the next Sweetfin location opening up?
The biggest secret is we're very
secretive.
We're very much thinking about franchising, and that's the first time we've ever thought about it. So
I think it's a great move.
Yeah, we spent we opened 5 locations, I think 5 locations, 23, and that was a lot for us. Like, we have a small team, we're lean as heck. Like, we don't, there's not like a ton of layers of management. So this year has been focusing on profitability, like from a company level, and also getting ready to franchise and get our systems in place. So that's what we.
So I think you're going to do great franchise.
Yeah,
I
hope so.
What are the first cities that you think are likely candidates for franchising?
I mean, when we talked about growth, like, it's where are the population centers, where are people moving, and like, typically, not to be like super controversial, but like, what are the states that are friendly for doing business, and what are states that are typically warmer weather, because our food does have some seasonality associated with it. So like, what are the red states, like Arizona-ish, Texas for sure, Florida. Those are markets that we think there's a lot of population growth, and
there's foot traffic there too.
Miami,
like in the winter, some places.
I want nothing more than to get a bowl of Sweetfin on South Beach.
Yeah, I would go. I would fly to Miami just for that.
Listen,
let me know. We'll cut
I don't
the
know
red tape
if you have your hands full enough, but we will grant you our first Miami franchise.
Hey,
let's go.
It's on the tape. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys still do pop-ups at Coachella?
Yeah, we were there last year. I think we've done it for 7 years. Yeah,
nice.
We have a couple installations there. One in GA, one in VIP. It's good marketing, I think. It's good to be like we were always smart about like being one part of building a brand is remaining relevant, and like, so you want to be culturally relevant. What are the events you need to be at, that matter. And Coachella is, to this day, one of them that you want to be associated with.
Do you have to pay to be a brand that does that at Coachella?
I don't know. Typically, yes, there's like cost to be there, meaning like you have to pay for the tent and your, all of your electricity and power, all that stuff. But like, I don't think for us, there's no fee,
right?
But we pay a percentage of our sales back to essentially to the festival. Of course, there's nothing's for free, man. Those things are money machines. Like they take where they can, and there's a lot of places where they can take.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest lesson you've learned over, building these 20 things, or this entire Sweetfin journey that you would take away, or to give someone else that's maybe an aspiring entrepreneur or someone that wants to get into fast casual, or what's the biggest thing that you've learned?
I guess advice-wise, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we brought in people that did. So like we built a team around us. Like we brought in an executive chef. Like it wasn't like, hey, let's just like take our recipe. And like, no, like
let's use our poll.
Yeah,
to our bowl.
Yeah, exactly. No, like we brought in a chef like Dakota Weiss, who built the menu. She had just finished filming Top Chef. We bought, she had best in class culinary at the time. We brought in ops. Like we needed to know, like we needed to run our places like professionally, but like we were also very thoughtful, I would say, in before we opened. Like we really thought about the brand. We really thought about how we wanted to be perceived. We thought about a marketing plan, pre-opening. We had, different forecasting scenarios of if we do X sales or Y sales or Z sales, like this is how the P&L is gonna, look. So I think, I would say to someone who wants to get into this space or any business, so like number one, like at some point you need to rip the Band-Aid off and you need to go. Yeah. But like you can go in a measured, smart way. You don't need to be reckless. Like what are ways, what are ways to create that MVP? We didn't have to do 20 different tastings with our friends, but
you
like
did 20 tastings,
probably like over the time, but like each time we got better. So and so like and it didn't cost a ton of money. So like how can you get creative to get to a point where you're comfortable that when you open whatever business you're going to be in, you can truly execute. So like, just be cautious, be careful, but also, at the same time, it's balancing risk.
Go for it.
Nice. Well, Seth, dude, I am going to go get a bowl of Sweetfin right now.
Same.
I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story.
Yeah.
And we got to get you back on when you're up to 100 locations through franchising.
I'm in. Committed.
Cool. Hey, buddy.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Peace.